Welcome back to For the Record. Today is like the best day ever because Sam Fender just released his third album called People Watching. It is 11 songs and it's about 48 minutes long, which I feel like is a very good length of an album. I think his two previous albums were also around this length. Hypersonic Missiles, I think, was also 48 minutes. And if I remember correctly, 17 Going Under Deluxe was like an hour 10, which means 17 Going Under Not Deluxe was probably 40 to 50 minutes. So it's like pretty average length for Sam Fender. As for the actual songs on People Watching, that 5 of them were released as singles. So we had People Watching, the first and title track. We had Wild Long Lie. We had Arm's Length. Last week he released Remember My Name, and then the day before the project came out, he released Little Bit Closer. And I have heard all of these songs, all those 5. This is my reaction to this project as a whole, because sometimes hearing the full album can change your perspective or your opinion on the singles. You know? So, let's get into the first song, the title track, People Watching. So, the song has been out since mid-November of 2024, and it already feels very nostalgic. I mean, it could be because it sounds very similar to The Boys of Summer by Don Henley, which came out in 1984. I'm not nostalgic for the 80s because I was not alive then. Neither was Sam Fender, he's born in 1994. But People Watching feels very timeless. Maybe because we've heard it time and time again. I'm not complaining. You can't go wrong with a classic sounding song. What I've gathered from this single, the other singles, some interview clips I've seen of him, this album seems like it's going to be more personal to Sam. I mean, this song was about a motherly figure he had in his life who passed away. And this song was about him viewing the world pass by and people live their lives as she was dying, which obviously, very personal story right there. It's kind of like what he would see to and from his visits with her, which is very interesting. In his past albums, we get to hear about his thoughts, but in People Watching the song, at least, we get to hear about his experiences. And you can make the argument that you live your life based on how you think, or vice versa, you think based on how you live your life. I don't know. I'm not here to talk psychology, okay? I'm not a psychologist. I'm just someone who likes music. But I do quite enjoy learning more about Sam's life specifically because he is such an interesting person. I like getting to see little bits and pieces of his life, you know? Even though it's not really my business, but it's interesting still to see. So, next song is the first new one. It's called Nostalgia's Lie. Let's listen to it. That song had all the elements that make Sam Fender, you know what I mean? And it reminds me so much of 17 Going Under. It brings me right back to when I first heard Sam Fender 4 years ago. And we also get to hear Brooke's vocals. Brooke is a new addition to the band. I will talk about her more when we get to Arm's Length. But she's such an amazing part of the band. I love her voice. She's so awesome. The next song we have is Chin Up. Let's give it a listen. I know he's been working on this project for a few years now, as many musicians do when they're making an album. It's not done in one day, you know? And I wonder if that was one of the earlier songs, because there's a line at the beginning where he says something about being 28. Just for a little context, he's 30 now. He's going to be 31 on April 25th. He's a Taurus. I'm a Taurus too. I'm a May Taurus though. I don't really believe in star signs, but I think it's cool that we're the same one, so I don't know. Anyway, I feel like that might have been one of the first ones, because knowing that they've been working on it for a few years, and a few years ago he was 28, it kind of makes sense. Like the timeline kind of lines up. I don't know though. I really like the build in that song, and I really like the instruments in that song. Also, it reminds me of like a theme song from a childhood show, but I can't think of the show. Like the way he sings it, like the pacing of it maybe? I don't know. If I remember it, I'll put it in here. I don't know if I will though. He's such a good storyteller, but he's such a good storyteller from other people's perspectives. He often puts himself in the shoes of other people and then tells a story from that perspective. Like Greasy Spoon is a good example. Two People is a good example. He's just very good at that. I don't know if that was from his perspective. It might have been. Or it could have been like other people's perspective on a topic. Anyway, love that song. Feel like it'd be good to walk to. It has a very good pace. Next, we have the longest song on the album at 6 minutes and 1 second. It's Wild Long Lie. When that song was first released, I was not really a fan. I hate to admit it. There's a Sam Fender song I do not like. I thought it was kind of slow and very repetitive because compared to his older music and even People Watching, which came out before this song, it is very slow and it's very repetitive. But over the last few months, I have grown very fond of it. It has found its place in my heart. Once I really put my time into listening to it, I realized how good it actually is. In the beginning, when I first heard it, I thought, if it sounds like the beginning, slow and repetitive, I don't want to waste 6 minutes if it's just going to be the same thing over and over again. But it's the second half of the song that really like flipped a switch for me. I was like, oh, like it's when the guitar kicks in and when the saxophone kicks in. I'm like, this is like one of the best like instrumental breaks I've heard in a very long time. And one thing about me, I love the saxophone. All brass instruments really are like my weakness, but the saxophone, when it's done correctly, like in Sam's music, it adds so much to the song. It's almost like a second voice or a new voice at that point. I think it's just incredible. The next song is actually my most streamed song of all time now. It's Arm's Length. Let's listen to it for what's going to be for me like the 800th time. That's not even an exaggeration. Like, I've listened to it so much. Let's listen to it again, though. I'm selfish and I'm lonely. That song is so simple, yet so effective. And yes, I know I just complained about Wild Long Lie being too repetitive when this is quite possibly the most repetitive song he's ever released. I don't care, though, because Arm's Length is incredible. I don't even know what it is about this song that makes it so satisfying. It could be like the simplicity of the guitar, like the main guitar part. Could be the way he sings it. I don't know. It's just perfect for me. And what's interesting about this song, it wasn't originally supposed to be part of this album. It was Brooke who convinced him to keep it on or add it to the track list. And thank God for Brooke. Like, thank God for her. Because this song, I don't even know who I would be as a person if I never heard this song. Probably not as cool. Brooke, this is for you, queen. Love you. Anyway, that's my most streamed song of all time. Like, when I first heard it, I first heard it on TikTok. I heard clips of it, like, being posted from his concerts. Never been to one of his concerts. Would absolutely love to go. But I heard a clip of it on TikTok and I was like, this is like the best thing I've ever heard. And then it came out and I was like, oh my God, it's even better than I could have imagined. Like, I love it. And I listened to it for 3,000 minutes in about 2 weeks. That's a lot of music on its own. I was also listening to other music on top of that. So that is just insane to me. Anyway, next song is Crumbling Empire. This is a very interesting song because it almost feels like it's a different perspective to Play God, which was on Hypersonic Missiles. In that song, he criticizes the government and its corruption, as he should do, as a lot of people should do, because a lot of government systems not doing super well at the moment. But this song feels like it's from the other perspective of it's someone living under that corrupt government, which I think is very interesting. Right now, that is sitting at number 2. I love the way that song sounds. It's very like nice. It's a good sounding song. And the electric guitar was also a great addition. Love that. So next we have the newest single. It's called Little Bit Closer. Let's listen. One thing I want to mention before I get into my actual thoughts about this song and kind of commentary on it. In the first verse, he says, you're starting to look like Otzi, which I think he's referring to the Norwegian ice mummy or wherever he was found. I don't remember off the top of my head. Which I think that because in the line before, he says, get out of your frozen state, which makes me think, oh my God, he is talking about the mummy, which I think is such a weird and like niche thing to bring up. Anyway, interesting. Anyway, Sam isn't one to shy away from his relationship with religion. I think he said in an interview somewhere he's atheist or he's nihilist or he's something. And if you don't know the difference between atheism and nihilism, atheism is not believing in anything, nihilism is believing in nothing. That sounds like it's the same thing, but atheism is just like not falling under any religion. Nihilism is literally believing that there's no purpose to anything, there's no afterlife, there's no anything. You know what I mean? Like, we're just here and then we die and we're done. That's kind of the difference between those two. I know he's talked about like his relationship with religion quite often, but this song seems like he's questioning it, whether it's due to experiences he's experienced or seeing other people experience things. which I think is interesting. I'm not a religious person by any means. I do love learning about religion, though. It's so interesting to me. But not for me. I like to take a look in, but I'll never be in. You know what I mean? This is the fourth last song. It's called Rain Me In. It's 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So let's get listening. If I stop, it's just pain. Please don't rain me in. One of the things that I really enjoy about that song was the instruments, actually. We don't often get to hear piano as one of the main instruments in his songs. Obviously, it is in the background of probably all of them. I don't know. I don't really pick up on piano that often, to be quite honest. But in this song I did, because it's like one of the main elements to it. It was a very interesting choice, and I really do like that choice that he made. Also, saxophone comes back in at the end. Perfect. I love the saxophone, especially in Sam Fender's music, because I just feel like him and the saxophone just fit together so well. That song also felt very different. It felt like, I don't want to say Western, but it felt kind of, you know what there's like a certain feeling that it had of like, I don't know, like walking in a desert. And then you like walk into like a saloon and there's just this guy on the piano just playing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of energy. Not that I've ever experienced that. But that's what I feel like it is, you know? Anyway, next up we have TV Dinner. This song has made its rounds on TikTok as well. I've seen clips of this song as well. So I'm very excited to hear the full finalized version. That was like one of my favorites I've heard so far. So there was a sound in it that was kind of like, not a dinging, but it was like kind of something like that. It's very electronic sounding, which we don't hear in his music. I feel like he's a very instrumental kind of guy, where it's guitars, it's drums, it's the saxophone, it's whatever, it's keyboard, you know, it's things like that. Whereas that sounded like it was made on a computer, that sound, which is interesting because we don't hear that a lot. And I liked it. Also, the build in this song was even better than the build in the other song I was talking about. Was that like Chin Up? I don't remember now. That song, I feel like it would be great in a movie. Like, it's very cinematic, but I feel like it would be like the villain song. You know what I mean? When the hero has wronged the villain one last time, and this is like the turning point of the villain, of like becoming this evil entity. That's the vibe I got. I don't know though. I enjoyed that song a lot. His vocals too, there's like parts where his voice was raspy, and it was very clear, and then it was like very full. It was great. I enjoyed that a lot. Now we have the second last song. This is Something Heavy. That song was so good. I wasn't expecting the strings in it. The string, like, it's like a violin or it's a fiddle. Although I think those might be the same instrument, just played in different ways. I don't really know. Again, I don't play instruments. I don't really pay attention to instruments a ton. Although now I am starting to, because I'm starting to kind of get into country music a little bit. And the reason why I am starting to like it now is because of the instruments. Because it's one of the reasons why I love Shaboozey so much. Miles Smith, not country, but he does have some strings in some of his songs. I love that. But as I'm listening to country music more and more, the instruments are what stand out. Their voices annoy me. Like, Morgan Wallen, Love Somebody is a good song if you take his voice out of it. Just gonna say that. The strings, unexpected, but a really good touch. I love that song. The way the drums kick in at the beginning reminds me so much of All Is On My Side. One of my favorite Sam Fender songs like ever. That song is so good. Like, it's like top 3 for me probably. Top 5 for sure. So now next up we have the final song on the project, song number 11. It's also the shortest song, 3:14. So all of these songs have been pretty good lengths. This is quite possibly one of the saddest songs I've ever heard. It's called Remember My Name. So let's get emotional now. That was the final song. That was Remember My Name. One of the saddest songs I've ever heard. I'm not going to be listening to that for fun, but I think it is a good part of the album. It's a great ending, I would say, especially. So as I talked about a little bit before, he is very good at putting himself in other people's shoes and singing from that perspective. This is a very good example of that. This is from the perspective of his grandfather taking care of his sick grandmother. I think it's a very good song. It's a very good perspective, and he did it in such a beautiful way. Anyway, with that being said, that is kind of the end of my reaction. I highly, highly recommend this album. I highly, highly recommend Sam Fender, though. He's like one of my favorite artists ever. Top three. He's tied at number one with Jeremy Zucker and Khalid, but they all like represent a different part of me, so it's fine. Like Sam Fender is so my brain. Everything I've ever thought, he has somehow also thought and put it into a song, and I just love him for that. um, but with that being said, I will leave you to it. Go listen to some good music. Go listen to Sam Fender today. Honestly, I recommend all of his music. So I'd start at Play God, that I think was his first single. But if you don't want to start way back then, listen to Hypersonic Missiles, then 17 Going Under, then People Watching, and I think you'll have a wonderful time to kind of. He's always been an amazing artist, but you'll get to really see him grow in the three projects he has. Anyway, I will leave you to it. Bye for now, guys.